Sashi sir, can you just change this to Amity Innovation Incubator, University part?
Amity?
Amity Innovation Incubator. Yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I looked at your mail ID and I used that. Sorry.
No, no worries. Yeah, that's fine.
Ojasvi is also joining. Vijay, is he joining?
He should join. Let me just see.
So we have now 51. Vijay sir?
Just 30 more seconds. Yeah,
Okay.
48 plus attendees. I don't want to kind.
Let's wait for 1 minute and then we'll start. Huh?
Sure. So Madhukar sir, you can start off.
A very good afternoon to all. On behalf of Amity Innovation Incubator, Amity University Gurugram, I extend a very warm welcome to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Shashi Bhushan, founder of GTM4 Health, on the topic Problem Validation of Business Idea, jointly organized by Amity Innovation Incubator and Mighty Startup Hub. I also take this privilege to extend warm welcome to my colleague, Mr. Ojasvi Babbar, Chief Executive Officer of Amity Innovation Incubator, Noida, and Mr. Vijay V. Singh, Vice President at Amity Innovation Incubator. I also extend warm welcome to all participants, students, faculty members, and startup founders. Amity Innovation Incubator, Gurgaon, which is supported by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology under TIDE 2.0 scheme, is located at Amity University Gurgaon campus, which is in close proximity of one of the largest industrial hub of country, providing an ideal platform for a vibrant ecosystem for early stage entrepreneurs and startups. Under the great visionary leadership of Dr. Aseem Chauhan, President of Amity Innovation Incubator and our Honorable Chancellor of Amity University Gurgaon, the Incubation Center is truly committed to build an environment and an ecosystem of research, innovation, and entrepreneurship by providing support in establishment and growth of technology-based startup companies. Today's session is very special because this session is a part of various activities which are being organized during this Innovation Week, which will be culminating in celebrating the Day of Innovation on September 28 to mark the birthday of our Honorable Chancellor and President, Amity Innovation Incubator, Dr. Aseem Chauhan ji. Today's session on problem validation on your business idea is going to focus on critical issue. And I think it is very, very important because that determines the success of a business. It emphasizes on understanding the real problem which your target customer are experiencing and the solution they will actually use. But this need to be done with caution, as sometimes customers don't understand what they truly value. So their solutions are limited to what they know. So sometimes we are also required to go beyond the customer's perception while we are trying to find out the customer's real problem, customer's requirement, and what kind of solution they are expecting. I'm sure that this session is going to give you a useful insight about the topic. Before I invite Mr. Bhushan, let me have an opportunity to introduce him to the audience. Mr. Shashi Bhushan holds MS from Indian Institute of Technology, Chicago, and MDP from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. He is the founder of GTM for Health, a platform for sales enablement of health tech startups. Mr. Bhushan is an experienced healthcare entrepreneur and a technology professional with more than 2 decades of experience. Till recently, he led the healthcare practice at Villegro, incubating and investing in social impact healthcare startup. He is an entrepreneur and technocrat who has contributed to many startups. He brings deep knowledge of Indian healthcare ecosystem, having built enterprise product and sold them to Indian market. He is also a trained NABL and NAB auditor. Once again, Mr. Bhushan, I extend a very warm welcome to you to Amity Innovation Incubator, Amity University, Gurugram. Over to you, Mr. Bhushan.
Thank you, Dr. Vikas, for your kind words and great introduction. Thanks, Vijay, for the opportunity to share some of my learnings on problem validation to the participants today. So with this, I kind of want to share some of the things on the problem validation first. So the agenda is going to be like this, that we will be talking about the importance of problem validation. Is it only for me? Is it only for certain industries? What kind of problem validation is required? The kind of audience over there. I'm given to understand we have got a lot of young startups, some amount of mature startups, some amount of what we call as EIRs working with the startups over there. So they'll certainly benefit in the importance of problem validation as we discuss more about this. To begin with, let me share that I'm sure a lot of you read about startups not going up or kind of shutting down because of lack of market research, lack of market need, several other reasons. Most commonly cited is actually we ran out of money. We couldn't raise the next round. That's how it comes out. But if you dig a little deeper, you realize that there's been enough time spent or by the startup, a lot of money would have also been invested around it. And when you go down deeper, you realize that there is one issue called as problem validation. The startup or the company was building something that the market didn't need actually. So that could be the reason. Sometimes, most times it happens, we get excited about it and we build something and then we realize few years down the line, it's not going anywhere. So who is this, what we call as presentation intended for? So problem validation is something needed for all kinds of industries. Is it only for young startups? No, I believe that inside a large company, sometimes there are new initiatives being done. Though you may have 10 years of experience, 15 years, 20 years, right? When you're doing something new, problem validation is needed. This is what we call as intrapreneurial ventures, which is inside a large company. You have an umbrella of that, but you still are driving something. Okay, other thing I want to talk about for the format of this program is that at appropriate points, I will stop over and ask for pause for inputs. You could ask any questions you've got on this. Coming back to the presentation, startups we all love. India is kind of becoming more and more startups. Young founders are doing it, right? So problem validation is needed for that. Government initiatives. You see government taking up newer initiatives to improve the nation, making it faster, leaner, transparent, so many things, right? So when you're trying to drive certain initiatives, problem validation is needed even there. So if you are part of a government initiative, you will need to do problem validation. Foundations, you see a lot of CSRs, foundations as part of corporates, driving solutions to a specific problem, maybe towards maternal child, maybe towards certain diseases, etc. Even when we are putting money, effort, investments, problem validation is required. So you see problem validation is required, whichever kind of venture you're running, whether it's government, entrepreneurial, foundation, technology companies. Yes, companies come to disrupt something which is running well for a lot of years. They try to disrupt the business model, etc. There also a lot of problem validation is required. If you see some of the mature companies over years, How do they work actually? You see, suddenly they kind of with something big, etc. But when you see that, there is a lot of time these mature companies spend in understanding the market, understanding competition, sizing before going after. We only see the last launch or something like that, right? For example, FMCG I missed out actually. When they are trying to introduce a new detergent, a new soap, they will have real clarity around what is the problem, how big is the market, what are we trying to do, those kind of things. So problem validation is required for all kinds of companies, all kinds of industries. Okay, so I'll next go on to what happens if you don't do validation right, the kind of dangers that prevail, and then go to the last part around how to do problem validation in depth. So when we talk of startups and early stage companies, right, everybody talks of this word called as GTM. What's your GTM strategy? What is your GTM strategy? So go to market, all of us know that, right? So go to market is the last part of a product launch or an offering or a service launch. It kind of changes based on product, business model, geography, right? But some of the frameworks remain the same, which is market access, market insights, and problem validation. So the most important thing in all these things is problem validation. Most times we just, as youngsters or early stage first time entrepreneurs, we jump off into this saying, I've done it, I will build a company around. I've also done it, I'm just telling you from the experience. We build something that didn't see the light of the day, then we have to shut it off and then get to something else. So I'm just always saying GTM is the last phase around it. Problem validation is the first phase, but it's a journey which I will share as to how it goes on. So what are the causes of not doing the problem validation right? I'll just pause here for a minute in case anybody wants to type on the chat box what happens, they can do that.
Any of the startup founders wanted to
And make it interactive, guys. I too want to learn from you guys. Okay, I think there's a little bit of reluctance around it. So you guys should be, this is what I call as problem validation. Hitting it out, what drives, what doesn't work. So one is, most times what happens is startups or even companies build something that very few customers may need because it's not a big problem or it's very costly, early stage of adoption. That's one of the standard problems. But usually the way it shuts down is usually people will say they couldn't raise an next round or they ran out of funds. That's how it is. The root cause, if you go deeper, problem validation was not right. Secondly, they get early customers, right? Usually we all see that niche, early customers. So there are some people who have chatted on that. Let me just see. Product market fit may not happen. You won't know if the market, very good. Yes, correct. Thank you. So you get this first 10 to 20 customers, which we call as early adopters. Then what do? We kind of say, wow, this is proven. I will now go raise funds and I'll try to scale the thing. But as you put on more money beyond it, you realize it's a very small niche market. And over a period of time, realize you cannot scale beyond certain things. That's another thing that happens if you don't get it. So which means either the product should be so costly or revenue generating that you create a profitable business, or it should be a volume business. Neither happens, so it's a problematic. Mr. Vijay?
Yeah.
I have some problems on this. Yes, okay, let me just come back to this. So we kind of have a wrong product launch, which kind of can hurt the reputation and the cost. Sometimes we have a brilliant idea, but by not launching it right, we lose the first mover advantage. That's very important. You should do it. You should be known for something that you built actually. And if you kind of waste time, costs increase every year, right? When you do your first round of fundraise, right? You have an 18-month window, right? If you don't get it right, it will be tough for you to raise again. Delayed revenues because you haven't got that parameters right. Competition catches up. Okay, they smell, okay, this is a great opportunity. You know, Google was the 16th search engine that was built, but they did it right. Most of them created solutions for Google, and then when they came up, they had everything right. That's how it happens. Competition catches. Engineering efforts wasted. And lastly, the losses can run into lakhs, crores of rupees, and the startup may shut down eventually. So this is very, very important. That's why I'm kind of firstly telling the bad news. If you don't do the problem validation right, some of these things can happen. So if you look at a journey of a startup, and if it's a medtech startup that has got hardware and other things, it's a long journey, a minimum 3 to 4 years it takes to bring a medical tech product out, because I've been in the medtech space for long, I can tell you all that. So you do this problem validation, then your development, clinical trials, each one of them is a phase by itself. Okay, and then if you see, I do not know whether I'm hiding this or you can see it, there is a last part which is all about pre-sales and other stuff. The channel, go-to-market, that's the last one if I'm covering that. Okay, most people focus on the last part and say, this is my GTM part. How do I get to market? How do I get to market? But according to me, I've been a startup entrepreneur for 7 years, built products for the Indian market. I believe that GTM is needed only as a last phase throughout the whole thing, and not only at the last stage. We need to have validation at different phases through GTM. Now I'll talk a little bit around the problems before introducing the problem validation as a topic. If you look at any business, right, the highest level, I kind of enjoy studying businesses and trying to analyze them. Most of them fall into two classes. The first one, as I've opened up the whole slide for you so that you can see along with me, is what we call as a vitamin solution, and the second one is a headache solution. This is how even investors look at it. They tell me something in short, an elevator speech around what your solution is. Are you a headache or a vitamin? When you say vitamin, what you're trying to do is, there is kind of a no immediate burning need. It's like a preventive solution or a long-term solution kind of thing. So people will say, let me wait some time unless I've got it over. And when you say a headache solution, you have a burning problem. I'm solving this. This will solve you within X hours, X days, X months, and it is what it is. Most people have, every businesses have some headache solutions. As entrepreneurs, we need to look at what is a headache solution I must solve, build a solution around it, build a business around it. If you have a business critical one, people will go out of their way to buy it up. Mark my words, this words that customers say, right now we don't have a budget, let us meet next week, next year, etc., is not the truth. The solution is not solving some of their burning needs. That's the truth. If they need it, they go all out, procure a budget and make it happen. Right? So this is all about that first part. Always look at it. Is the startup or the product you're building a nice to have solution or a must have solution? This is my question to all entrepreneurs on this forum. Always look at that. Getting this fundamental right is very, very important. Second one is when you're building, what kind of a solution are you building? Is it an innovative solution, slightly better, or a me too problem? So this is also determines, can be determined during the problem validation step itself. So that's why I'm introducing this concept also. Is it something very novel? You're building a category creation company. And if you're doing that, also look at how you will introduce it to the customer. Is it easy to integrate with the standalone or the working systems, or something standalone it has to be? Because people always worry, I have got some existing X as a solution. If I take you as a Y, how will it work? Will it be compatible? Will there be APIs? Will there be so many things? People like to see clean solutions, right? If you have that, that's a great thing. You can command a premium also. It's a great business. But if other thing around problem validation is when you're building something new, people do not know much about your idea. So you believe something called as concept selling you do, and then try to educate them and then take them to the next step. Second part is if you're building a solution slightly better than that, it's a good one, because let me tell you, somebody has validated the market. You can enter there confidently saying, there is a market, I can build a better one. So parameters people look at when they buy you or buy your services. Is it better? How much better? Is it worth switching? Etc. That's the way. Third one is my recommendation for entrepreneurs. Sometimes we say Bharat is big. There is a need for one more product, one more service, right? Be cautious around that during the product validation phase. Market being big doesn't mean the paying customers are large. If there are already many of them, it will be tough to dislodge. This should be caught in your product validation phase. So too many players, it will be seen as a commodity. It's like a commodity in the market. Lowest bidder wins the deal. That's how it works. So it's a bad business. So these are some things you need to capture when you're doing product validation. On the business model, this is another thing that is needed during the business model. How do you introduce? Today's world is what? COVID stricken. And if you're introducing new product, some businesses have challenges on their capex. Some of them are looking at innovative business model. I need it, but I don't have cash. So for health tech, I'll speak in perspective. That's been my expertise. So people in healthcare are also looking at pay-per-use, rental, SaaS models. So if you're building a product around it, look at how will you introduce it in the market? Is it several lakhs worth of it? Tough to sell. Right? You need to have a channel where customers test your product, use it, and then you can upsell. So try to have this kind of things. However, if it is regular ones, you should say, fine, there's a bigger market. People are open to buying it out. New hospitals lab like this. But these are also what we call as commodity markets. Be careful around it. Pay-per-use, we all use Googles and other things. So that's the service SaaS as a service. Why this is interesting is people can test your product. Small cost, few months, I'll test it out and I like it, I can do it. Otherwise, I'll stop it. Rental and SaaS is the third one. If you have a hardware and a software, this is the model that you introduce, and you need to bring it in your problem validation. Can I introduce this in a model of rental and SaaS? That's a way to look at it. So with this, I kind of go on to introducing the problem validation. How do we do it, right? So any questions up till this point in time? Okay, I only give 30 seconds. That's my validation. So how do you do a validation? I think just like the way startups come up, right? You have an idea, you discuss with a few people, etc. Once you do that, right? Once you want to build a business around it, be a little more structured around it. It means you meet certain prospects, you tell them what your idea is, you tell what the need is, and then you start validating it, right? So which means, is there a large enough business to create, a large enough market to create a business? Can we create value for the customer? Can we run profitably? These are some of the important things you need to do, whether it's a startup or an intrapreneurial venture. Actually, this is what the inputs are. Actually, I have a detailed one around it. So validation sources are also, if it's a very new one, market research is a good one. And usually all what we call as analyst companies come up with market research. This is growing at 20% a year, 30% a year, etc. Sometimes when there is no market research, you should be cautious. There may be no need also. It's not that people don't see, but just be cautious around it. When you do a business outcome of a business problem validation, what do you get? Two outputs you get. Before I talk of two outputs, let me tell you the mindset that you need to be in when you validate a problem. Be extremely detached. You're solving a business problem. You're building a business. You are not that problem. Most times as entrepreneurs, we get extremely emotionally attached to that stuff and say, oh, it's me. Even though there is nothing, somehow make it happen. Be very cautious around it. I'm speaking like from an entrepreneurial perspective, having made some mistakes like that. So you need to be extremely detached and only look at the results, what is coming out, what is being shared, and work on it. Only if you look at it that way, you have a high chance of success. Two outcomes come. One is there's a problem that exists. There's a large enough market. And then you can create a value for the customer. It can be run properly. Second one is there is no need of such a product or service, or people are not still clear around it. So it means it could be a niche market. And then sometimes what happens is, oh, you're there, right? Then people will tell you from the conversations you can get. But how are you different from this guy? How are you different from this guy? Then you know there are already people who have got it. And if your solution is slightly a delta compared to existing one, it's a commodity market. Be cautious around it. So be dispassionate, and not emotionally attached to this kind of thing and work that way. That's the way to look at a business. You are not the business, you're a business owner, and try to look at it. If this doesn't work, go after another one. But extremely important to work with this mindset. Okay, so why do we validate it? What's the reason for it? I think first thing everybody said, I think in the chat box also somebody said is, we have some assumption. India is going to be this is going to be coming, this is going to be the way it will grow in the market. Today, the world is all about digital. Everything is going digital. That's our hypothesis we do. Some may go digital, some may not go digital. That's also the way, because everything cannot be done. So when we are building product services, we are making a lot of assumptions. So we need to look at what are my key hypotheses? What are my assumptions? And if our assumptions go wrong, it is a death knell for the startup. So you need to validate. Second one is, we are building something that may have a no market need. So we want to validate. We want to touch to early customers and say, hey, there is a market need. That's why I'm building. The kind of conversations you need to have when you're having the conversation is very interesting. Sir, if I build a problem, if I build a solution for this problem, will you buy it? That way, you kind of have already got a first paying customer for that. Don't build the whole thing and then go and tell him this is something I've built. Always engage the customer, always validate it. When you build your first mock-ups also, go and show him, is this something how it looks like? Get feedback. Then there is a buy-in from the customer also. Oh, he's building something for me. Do not spend a lot of time building and then test the market. Always be very close to the market. Then try out. Sir, I think this costs you 15,000 rupees per annum. Whatever, what do you think around? Oh my God, 15,000. What do you think is the right one? Play around with the models. The more time you spend on problem validation, good for you. No big surprises, and you can change it and you can pivot also. And all of you as entrepreneurs have heard this word customer development. I think this was pioneered by Steve Blank, right? He was a guru of startups, right? So you need to go out, meet customers, touch them, understand what they need, etc. That way you can validate and refine your idea. That way you're not in a lab or something. You're always in touch with the customers. So if it is nothing wrong, pivoting is not wrong at all, I'm telling you. But you do it faster, good for you, you're safe. If why validate, it helps you pivot faster if you're on the wrong path. Am I clear around the validations? Anything else anybody would like to put on the chat box? I'm seeing somebody type a couple of things. Sir, if a founder is starting with a Me Too product, is there a need of validation? If there is a need of validation, then do different countries play a major role in product expectation? So how do you calculate TAM, SOM? So I'll take one of the things. TAM, SAM, and SOM I'll cover in the next slides. Me Too product, be careful around it. One is market is validated, but how are you different from them? Either are you giving them freemium, are you giving discount? That is different. And when you're doing different countries, again, we'll speak from healthcare, regulatory needs are different. What you can easily introduce in India, if you want to go to US and introduce, it calls for a major investment like an FDA clearance, right? So think through those kind of consumer kind of thing that doesn't fit. Thank you for the questions. Okay, why validate? Again, it's a methodical and scientific way for business decisions. We get outcomes around target segment. So all of you know how to do a TAM, SAM, etc. So I will not get very deeper into this. So when you validate, you get demographics, who is the right customer for you, what business model works, etc. And what to validate. This is a slide I will spend more time on it. What do you think are the things to validate? Top 3 things. My 10 seconds is up. So I'll expect this is an entrepreneurial stuff. So keep typing, chatting with me. Nothing right or wrong. We are all learning. So keep it more engaging. So first one you need to validate is the market demand. Is there really a big market? Total market size is big. How is the market growing? This is an interesting thing. I think the previous person who asked about it, say we are a Me Too product, but you need to keep in mind, is the market still growing for you to give you the leverage? There is a need for an additional player. Or if somebody has already entered and is not growing, be careful. You should always enter growing markets. And then how is the competition? It's extremely intense. How long does it take to get into the market? Is it a very a quick one, or it takes at least 1 year, 2 years to get some foothold into the market. That's a slow market actually. Be very careful. Some of them create moats. You can't get in very easy. And then market is big. So you need to look at what is the segment I want to enter. Which means, let's say I'll take the lab industry, which I knew, diagnostic lab industry. It's a very vast industry, maybe close to 2 lakh labs per year. I operated in that space, so I'm kind of close to that. So you need to classify the labs into Class A labs, Class B labs, and Class C labs. So Class A labs are the kind of, we call it as chain of labs. There will be around 12 to 15% is chain of labs. The remaining Class B labs are all 55% of the time it was, all driven by owners themselves. Actually. There's no organization, extremely kind of very disorganized market, I would say. The third is a Class C lab, which is all about sample collection. They don't grow, but they are dependent on it. So you need to segment the market, which one you're attacking, and kind of zero in on that. Who are the segments? What are the needs? What is the paying power? So that's the what to validate. Second one, some of the industries that you enter, right, have been there for very long, but usually the standard problems are addressed. So you need to find a niche. This is something somebody is doing a very good job. I can't take that person head on, right? So I will find out some small niche and try to enter from this niche. But if you take the same problem head on, people will trust someone who is longer in the market, who has a bigger customer. You need to find a niche. There are still a lot of problems unsolved. And try to create a small business and try to expand around it. It's the same problem across the whole value chain. Do that part. People have built large businesses solving small problems. And when you're validating, the important part is, again, as I said, dispassionate. Observe the problem. Learn how they are handling it. Understand the whole chain, which means what is it costing them? Are they losing revenues by leakage? Is there a productivity problem? What is happening? Is there a technology problem? What's happening? Don't sell your solution at the time of problem validation. All you're doing is gathering inputs. Okay. Third one is, as you build a problem also, this is a mistake we do. We build something which people can say as looks good, kuch ho jayega. But just be very careful at this stage. Does it really solve the problem, which is 1 or 2 people or 10 people, or does it solve the same problem across the whole stream, like thousands of businesses or lakhs of businesses? So this is where we make the mistake. We solve some small things and then we say, ha, ho gaya. Please put the feedback loop. This was the problem, this was the cost, and now with this is happening over there. You need to consistently benchmark. Just because you got a revenue, early revenue, please do not take your eye off the problem solution bit. And sometimes, with the mill raha, some revenues are coming, don't go. Please be very focused on your true North Star goal. Okay. So how do you do the steps in problem validation? I'm sure all of you have heard of this word called assumption or hypothesis, right? You need to write it down. Writing brings that clarity. That's why I say always write it down. Because every time you talk to somebody, right, when you have a deck and you show the problem to the person, it's an amazing thing. He is able to see, you're able to read. But when you're talking, it kind of doesn't resonate well. So just do it. And then you need to collect the data to validate. I'll talk about how to do it. And then analyze the data. Let's say a segment of 100 business owners you talk about a business hypothesis. What are they saying? I'll give you the frameworks, etc. later. Then analyze. 70% said this, 18% said this, 2% said this. That's the way you should be looking at it. So how does hypothesis testing work? Hypothesis is what? You believe it is true based on your gut feel. Sometimes you have faced the problem. So you believe, wow, there's a big market, big industry. So I believe there's more. So, but it's a good thing because sometimes you have so much of what we call conviction around it. That way you kind of believe in it and you go for it. But you still need to validate your gut is. So you will write a hypothesis. Market will use this service based on so and so problem. That's a hypothesis. And then what you need to do is go all out to prove the hypothesis right. Or it may prove itself wrong. So there's only black and white, yes, no answers. Right? So that is what is going to happen. You need to test the hypothesis by primary research. Initially, people are telling, oh, this is a problem I wish were solved. I've been telling all the people, nobody is taking a look at it. So you need to kind of structure the reviews in a way, the interviews in a way that you get sharper and sharper answers rather than verbose thing. How much is the cost that is wasted? How much your business problem? That kind of a feedback you need to sharpen this. It's just not something like a big problem, etc. Will you pay for this if somebody builds it? How many hours get saved because of this? There are also other ways to do it. Social media survey people try to do, and there are secondary research people do. They look at market reports, but in today's world, that's a little what I can say outdated because everything is in social media. People talk and do it. However, there are online research publications where there are companies doing great work, getting the data in the way I am telling you and presenting it to you. So you can buy those reports also. They are really good. Okay, if your budget allows you. And if you're a young startup, a young student trying to do, how do you do it? Always have processes, methods, use XLS and Google Forms, such that you're able to analyze the data, synthesize the data, etc. That way it is structured and you're able to see patterns. Your yes, no answer should also be very well structured. And don't try to be too broad in your stuff such that you can sharpen the whole thing to do. So this is what I talked about as hypothesis testing. So what happens when you run it? You meet people, or you in today's world, because of COVID, you can't travel. You send them Google Forms, they can respond to you, you get answers in a very graphical way, and you can do that. So you get answers around market size, market growth, the way so many people have this problem. And you also get to know, sometimes you need to structure your form in a way that people can give free text. They can type out whatever they want. So people may ask, how are you different from, let's say I take a telecom industry, an Airtel or a Jio. If somebody is trying to introduce a new telecom service. So everybody knows those big players. You can do. Again, look at big market. How do I segment it? This has been taken. Do not be over optimistic, trying to challenge an existing player if they have been for very long. Very, very rarely it works out actually. So try to carve out a niche and say, this is something I'm going after. So you need to be novel. Why I tell this is because if you are trying to set up meeting with customers after you build a product, even this becomes a problem. Oh, you're this. Oh, I don't want it. People hang up actually. Your sales call or telecall or whenever they're trying to set up meetings, right? If it is not interesting, if it is the same old thing, they just hang up. All of us get calls, right? They're trying to sell us something which we know. Shouldn't happen for your business. Look at adjacent white spaces. Some people may say, I don't need, but this is the area I need. Dig deeper. Dig if you can build a business. Pricing, what could be the one that. So what happens is it's an interesting and important slide. I will pull up the whole thing now. When you're doing this, is almost I'm at the last part of it so that I can take on more and more questions. First of the outcome you get is not many people are interested. Few say, chahiye, nahi chahiye, something like that. You get an observation saying that, oh, it's a very niche market. One of my friends who is a doctor, one of my friends who is an entrepreneur, only he wanted it. Few people wanted it. So market size is too small, even if I go to every city in the country and try to find one or two player like this. So what is it? So too small to create a large business. So you may have a very long sales cycle and time to revenue is long. So one or two things you can do is you can have a secondary, what you call as a research. Was my questionnaire right? Was my questionnaire sharp enough? Do I need to do one more round of it? Is something you may want to do. Trying to attack it from a different angle to see if there is something else. But sometimes if it is usually the first responses you get for a new product or new thing tells you a lot about is it ready or not. Always respect the market's words and try to look at it. Unless you are extremely funded well, you have a lot of cash flow that you can wait for 1 to 2 years, but you can build a new category kind of thing. That's also something I encourage people. It's not that you have to go with only something that is proven. Okay, the kind of people supporting you, the kind of people backing you, and if you do it, it's still accepted. But just that how you do it, be aware. Because when you raise funds, you should also be telling the investors, this is what the market says. But we believe 2 years, this is how the curve goes up because of more digital adoption, because of more things. First 2 years, we are building you're creating awareness, you're educating it. That's a long sales cycle. It's a niche market. Maybe it may grow. Okay. So this is outcome number one. Outcome number two is a little bit more dangerous. Sometimes we come up with very vague ideas and very strange ones, right? There's nobody in the field actually. I kind of am a believer that when I do a Google, I will find something around. I'm not too smart that I only have some idea that nobody has. Usually, all entrepreneurs are more or less sharp enough. We see ideas, we try that out, and we kind of sometimes pull out faster. Sometimes if you have no competitors, you might want to wonder, why is it that nobody has tried? Or have they tried and failed? And what you can also do here is something like a suggestion I'll tell you here is, if you know a target segment for that, go ahead and talk to them and say, hey, this is something, have you seen someone build it like this kind of thing? People will say, I know this company, they tried something, but I haven't heard from them. Right? So these are some things that may have happened, or market may be very reluctant to adopt new technology and services. Hey, this industry is very low with respect to adoption of technology. I will speak from healthcare. It's very slow to adopt new technology. I sometimes used to call it a slow clock speed industry. So you need to keep that also in mind if you find there's no competitors. And however, I'll also caution if you're building new technology services, let's say AI, ML, and other things around some things that are already existing, there is a lot of market. But however, it needs to be built in, because new technologies, nobody has heard of them before. So there is better ways of doing it. That's how it is. So I'm not saying only you should go after existing one or something. There is a need, new technologies, new way of disruption. I'm all for it. Okay, I just want to make sure that I don't scare off saying there's no competitor around that. Keep all this in mind. Outcome number 3. It kind of gives you a very balanced view. Hey, there are customers looking for solution. However, there are also competitors. Somebody put in the chat box, right? There are Me Too kind of thing. But just look at it as how many Me Too's are there, what's your differentiation, and other things over there. Which means the first part and 2 are good. There is market. I've got something which others don't have, and I'm able to create it. Very good position for you. So you are not worried about 1 and 2. There is a market. So think around how you want to do it. And it may be something that you have crossed stage number 1. How do I create a moat, 1-year plan, 2-year plan? Because you're already entering a market, some people are looking and trying to do that. Last one, which is outcome number 4, I call it. There are already too many players over here. It's a commodity market. And this word commodity is something not so nice, but I'll just put it out. People play with the prices. To sell, they need to bring the price down and then sell, to capture the revenues. People will say, later I'll make a profit. But not a great thing, because if everybody is coming in, it's not a great one to exist also. Another criteria of commodity market is it's very easy to enter. Very easy to enter. So be careful when you're entering. There will be 10 other startups that will get funded faster and do it. So are there barriers in entry is something you need to look at. But I alone have, our company alone has got some ideas that others do not have. Because a lot of startups kind of can build it. If it is just a SaaS-based model, people are building companies out of colleges. How do you do it? So you need to look at how do I differentiate and build a profitable business. Because once you enter, minimum 4 to 5 years of effort you need to put in to build a good profitable business or a non-profitable. You will not see the light of the day at least 3-4 years. You will get to know where it is. So just think on these lines actually. Okay, so I'll take questions on this. As if you would like to put it out, I will do it. So this is an exercise I want to give everybody. When you're building a business, new startup, etc., do this as a problem validation. Put together a line item. That's one statement saying the problem is this, XYZ, whatever it is. It impacts the business or clinical health or something in this way, resulting in negative business or health impact. It should be so sharp that in one line or in two lines, you should be able to do. The problem is this, impact this, resulting in this. You're able to have an elevator pitch, etc. Sir, we are solving for this. This is a big one. And then you should also be saying our solution, whatever your solution is, solves it in this way, resulting in positive business. That's the sharpness you should bring in. So another thing about problem validation, I'll tell you, be very, very niche when you're defining the problem. Again, I repeat, be very niche. Don't be a thali. Why I use the word thali? You know, when you go to a hotel, you get so many items, dishes in one plate. You won't eat a lot of things, but you get a lot of things. They try to pack more. But sometimes you go to very niche restaurants, you will not ask for something. Sir, I want only this. That's the way. And they charge you a lot. Not an easy one. Right? So you need to look at that kind of thing also to say, I don't want to be a thali kind of a solution. Our solution solves this problem in this way, resulting in this. And it's a SaaS-based model. This is what you pay. This is what your ROI. Talking about the matrix here, write down top 3 impacts. Don't go beyond 3. Why there is this rule called as rule of 3? People's attention span also, right, goes beyond 3. They cannot see beyond 3 problems when you're pitching to customer. They'll look at one page, don't say 10 or 20 problems. Top 3. When you're creating that stuff, you say, I spoke to this person to validate it. He said he will pay for it or he doesn't need it, etc. Sharp answers that you're able to put it to a Google Analytics and get some answers out. And if they say, I'm going to pay, what will it be? Don't say, why not this much or why not that much? You're just trying to interview and get inputs. Don't say, sir, isn't it costlier than this? Why don't you pay more? If I solve this problem, what will you pay? That's how it should be. Because you are in that dispassionate and unemotional mode of getting inputs. You are not building anything. Okay, so guidance here is speak to large sample prospects to validate. The more, the better. The more diverse, the great actually. So that if you are building something only for kids, that's fine. And if you're building something for both kids, mother, father, grandfather, you need to sharpen it down. This problem is only for senior citizens. I'm building this. This is not for kids, especially health tech. I'm telling you, we try to build everything as a one solution fits all. Be sharper around it. Third thing I will tell you, very important, is document. Document the validation experience, especially what customers say. Else when you talk to investors and show evidence, the investors will ask you, how did you validate? But this is what we did. This is what customers say. That's it. Okay. So there is an easier way. As I'm ending the presentation, I'm creating an easier way. One of the ways I also learned was simple way. Today, everybody is digital online, right? Create a landing page with a description of the problem you're solving. Send it to hundreds of people and say, hey, please look at this site and tell me, do you think this problem is there? Will you buy it? Will you use this service if I build something around it? And put it on Facebook, Twitter, etc. So for people also, it's very easy. You just run it on social media, click it, and they will say, yes, no, you got your responses. And then what you should also do is, based on the response, you'll have to sharpen the problem. There is some direction around the problem. Your second iteration should be more sharper. If we call it A2B testing, right? Now you sharpen this. Thank you for your response to this. We are building. However, we want to know more about what part of the business is getting you need actually. That way you do an A2B testing and you keep on segmenting it. 3 iterations are more than enough. I did this when I was building GTM for Health. Honestly, I'm telling you, that's how I did it. And you get people's email responses, talk to them and validate. Once they respond, say, thank you for your response. Can I just take 5 minutes? I have just 2 to 3 questions, talk to them. Easy way, right? So this is the easier way. Without too much of thing in all digital world, you can do it. And all you need is one landing page. You can just buy a domain, put one small WordPress landing page and get things out actually. So this is what I thought I want to help you out with this way. So summary, validation is a very important step in your startup journey. Spend quality time. Do not rush through. The more and more sharper it is, good for you in the long run. If done well, increases the success rate of your startup. If not done well, may result in wastage, time, effort. Is eventually the startup loses its way, right? So this is what I kind of had as presentations. We still have just 10 minutes more left for this presentation. Happy to take questions on this. Over to you, Mr. Vijay. You would like to moderate it.
Shashi sir, thank you so much. I think a lot of insights coming out through your presentation. And I'm sure many of the startup founders would have seen that kind of importance of validating their product idea. So I request founders, in case they want to raise their hand, they can raise it. We'll unmute you. You can have a one-on-one conversation with Shashi sir. Okay. And some of you who wanted to just put it in Q&A chat, most welcome.
So can I answer one or
Karthik.
two questions that are raised here? Is it okay?
Yeah, sure.
So which features of the product are most important for prospects? This is an input you will get from as you do the validation. And understand, once you do a validation, you also need to segment it. Important thing is not all features are required for everybody. So always the rule of three, I tell you, right? Don't introduce anything beyond 3 features and be sharp and be hard on it. No, this won't get into the first version of the product because you're trying to have a mass adoption, more and more people to use it. Don't be the thali solution, I'm telling you. Don't add more and more. Just be sharp, because once that prospect sees you, he should think of you as that solution. Oh, this guy, right? Oh, he's building that solution. I want to talk to him. Okay. In case any startup, yes, do that. So that's the way, sharper, and segment the product. Lightweight for a basic version, midpoint version, and a premium version when you're doing the pricing also, that you get it from that. So I'm open to taking the questions since the chat questions have been answered now.
Sure. Karthik Subramaniam, you have any query? I think you were raising hand. Arvindji, if you can just unmute him. Karthik, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good
So
evening.
I have one question, because as you were telling, some of the product validation and problem solving of the validation, because some of the products are common in the market, and we come up with a business idea which is a large scale implementation. How can we validate a product that solves a problem in a large scale but isn't in the common domain or in common genre?
Can you be a little more specific?
See, for example, in games, or let's say in artificial intelligence, the genre is of the development would be the same in category, but it bifurcates into different categories of work ethics. Of, let's say, in gaming, you have different scales of doing the products. For same example, let's say we have Assassin's Creed also, and we have Prince of Persia also. The validation of that gameplay is almost the same, but the scenario.
No, I lost you. This
you
AI
can-
ML I understood, but which domain are you adopting this?
I'm talking about one is in games, and
Games,
other
okay.
is in artificial intelligence based on health app. So if suppose the domain of two different products that are there validated, how can we validate that particular product which is upcoming in the market but solves the problem as well, but is in the common domain as well?
Yeah. So choose large problems. I'll speak from a healthcare perspective. There are a lot of problems that require AI/ML. For example, a lot of things to do with TB itself as a disease, right? It's still not eradicated. A lot of UN funding, World Health Organization funding, lots of them are there. So it's a problem that requires to be solved. But also the other side is also when you're introducing a solution, it requires a lot of what I can say regulatory clearances, which means when you're solving healthcare problems, we look at things like accuracy, we look at specificity, right? So when you're for that, you need large sample sizes to prove the accuracy, being closer to something called as a gold standard, right? So there is already some solution which is being used by people, which is a manual solution, but people are able to do it because of the accuracy it provides actually. So when you're building technology solutions around AI/ML, keep in mind how close to gold standard can you come, and when you come to what you solve over there, be sharper on the disease classification. See, for example, let me tell you, respiratory diseases are so many. Is it TB? Is it bronchitis? It is so many things over there, right? If you are able to sharpen this and say the use cases, this is what we do. This is a screening device by AI/ML. We are able to identify the potential problem in this early stage patient much early because of this. However, we are not diagnosing or we are not providing a solution. So it's okay for me to go with, instead of a 94 or a 95% solution, I'm at 88%, right? I cannot go wrong because I'm looking at certain patterns in my AI/ML. So that's the way to look at it. And over a period of time, you should yourself keep on improving it, because that's the way to drive a mass adoption also. I took it from the healthcare perspective because I'm knowledgeable on that. Did I answer your question?
Sir, you have answered the question, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
And in no way your solution should be inferior or riskier than the existing one. Be careful around it. If you say I'm trying to build something, but it is a much lower standard, especially in healthcare, people will be cautious around it. So that's one of the important things. Yeah, next
But
person.
in perspective of gaming, because when I'm talking about game industry, and we are trying to implement some machine learning systems in that, how does most of the solutions that we put in as for the common markets of gaming in a large scale implementation, how would we validate that particular product? Let's say we are putting in some of the media of entertainment itself. For the example of Pac-Man, or let's say of we have examples like Fortnite. We can also implement some of those applications as for AI as well. But if we see the common ground, because it solves the problem of the consumers who spend their time on that particular product itself. And how can we say that being in the common market, we also have a product in similar way can solve the validation?
No, I didn't understand much because
So I'll give you in a very simple proforma overview. In the medical itself, when we say that one particular solution,
Karthik, unmute. Karthik, you're muted.
so can you hear me now?
yeah, better now.
Yeah. See, let's talk about medical itself, which we were talking about TV, and there are, let's say, 7 different solutions for the same problem, right? And out of which 2 are similarly same, but other 2 are different. But the 5th one is a stronger one that can solve the entire problem. But the first 2, example 1 and 2, can solve as equivalent to the 5th one, but it is not getting validated, but it is perfect, but it is lengthier. But whereas the 5th one is shorter, but it is effective, but it has a problem of clear validation. So which one shall we pick? The lengthier with the validation or the quicker one with not validation?
Sure. Let me explain this with an example that I was guiding a startup on without taking the name. So this startup was focused on what we call as stroke victims. The stroke victims who kind of cannot move and they have a long time to recovery, based on which they lose their wages, they cannot get back, etc. How can we shorten this cycle? And also, once you shorten the cycle, there will also be beds that can be released for others, etc. So this startup took up the gaming way, wherein they introduced gaming with respect to, as you are kind of using or flexing your muscles with the direction of the physiotherapist, we also will make it something like a points for you, games for you, motivate you. That way, every day your number goes up and you are motivated to do that action. So they attempted this kind of a solution and they have got a good traction around the market. But however, again, you need to choose which segment you're going after, because stroke victims are also, there are low risk, not low risk, low curable one. Sometimes it takes very long one. Sometimes it takes medium size. So once you do that, that's the right way to do it. It is not about actually, again, forget the name here, 1, 2 or 1 to 5 or something like that. You have to identify my customer is this. There is a problem. There is shortage of physiotherapists. Because of it, physiotherapists visiting the patient every day is a big cost. This device, if I'm placing it inside the what we call as the person's house on a rental model, is cheaper for him to use. Physiotherapist guidance will still be needed at appropriate times. That's the way you should look at it and say, what are you solving? Was I directionally? Right, because that's how you do it.
Okay.
The problem is the lack of physiotherapists. There aren't too many physiotherapists. There is also a cost involved if they keep on visiting. Third one is, how do you shorten their recovery span? Those are the problems the startup was focusing.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Arvind, can you unmute Prashant Chaudhary? Prashant, go ahead.
Hello, sir. Thank you for the very informative session. So actually, we have a startup, Predog.ai, which is into AI-based diagnosis of diseases. So we have recently patented one technique for neonatal jaundice detection. And for problem validation, what path we were choosing about was because it's a problem which is very prevalent in rural and suburban areas. So now we were thinking that if we go to some NGOs like CRY, UNICEF, or which category child healthcare in rural sections and validate the problem there. So wanted to, like, because there exists already the mechanism which do test. The gold standard is the bilirubin blood test, and the another device which is there, which usually doesn't work on the Indian skin tone, is a bilirubinometer. So but that is pretty expensive, so which is not usually used in rural areas. So to what extent should we go for the problem validation? Because the jaundice test is usually done, but it's done through the blood test. So I mean, it's not something that you're solving a problem, which is we need to find the problem. The problem does exist. The question is that the solution, how fit would it be for that market segment that we are targeting? So to what level of in depth should we try to validate this problem with? Like we should we go to the just talk to them over phone, go with them, and or even visit the villages with them and see how they're doing. So just want to know, like, what depth should we go to?
Sure, I do have kind of guided something which was on neonatal, something like sepsis kind of thing. So I'll give you a similar analogy. So you're building something like a rapid test kit kind of thing. Am I right?
It's basically a mobile-based, AI-based video diagnosis,
Correct.
which works on a video of a neonate.
Okay. So see, you need to look at, for you to validate it, you need to look at the right channel, which means here it is not the people who have been inflicted or afflicted with neonatal, whatever the problem you spoke about, but the people who treat them, which is the pediatrics. Hello? Right? So can you guys hear me?
Yeah, very much.
Okay. So you need to look at the pediatrics, because only whatever the doctor says will the patients use, or the labs also will be recommended by the doctors itself. So your important customer here is not actually the patient, but a doctor who will be using your either rapid test or your mobile-based screening over there, and get a buy-in from them and show this is what you're building. And most importantly, see, doctors are also flooded with a lot of offers, this one, that one kind of thing, right? You need to have that stuff as to, will it increase their practice? Will it solve their productivity problem? Because the doctors like to see more and more. Today, this kit I had to wait for 3 hours before I get the results out. With your kit, which is a mobile-based screening VIML, I can do it in 6 minutes. So I'm just giving you an example. So if you're able to have a different offering, which is exciting to the guy, and he shouldn't think twice, hey, this is an easy one. And it also should not be very costly one. Because suddenly some kit is selling at ₹40 today, and you say mine is 400, people will not buy it. Money is extremely important. The financial value proposition, guys, is extremely important, especially if you're in healthcare. There are dime a dozen things. So you have to keep these two in mind. So for you, the customer or the real customer is the end user, which is the doctor, who will use your tool and make an important decision there, not their disease, and treat accordingly. So you need to work very closely and kind of pivot it on. I'm available offline also to guide if needed, actually.
So so does it boils down to a product fit kind of a study rather than a problem identification or problem validation kind of study?
See, what you have done is, I think there is a problem. It's afflicting the villagers. There's a large, all of us know, right? There's a doctor to patient ratio. There's a big one. So there is already a stuff. But today, how are they solving? What is the mortality rate? Is it extremely high? Or are there alternate ways which people are using, which is still making them happening? What do we call calm chal raha hai. I'm just saying they're working out.
Right.
Somebody falls ill, somebody gets recovered also. How is your solution creating something very big change in the whole thing that will swing the favors to you? Either you shrink the whole time cycle, you catch them early, or you lower the mortality rate by what it is because of your solution, or you have a pricing that is not at all matchable by others. You are so good in that. So it's an old problem. I think it's Prashant, right? Yeah, Prashant.
Yeah.
So it's an old problem. What is it new you're bringing in?
Right. So, okay, I'm getting in that, we'll have to go to the ground and check the how the product that we are trying to build fits exactly.
Okay, that's the one. Actually, I always ask entrepreneurs one question: will you buy your own product? If you pitch to yourself, right? Wow, this is a product Prashant sold to me, and I want to buy. Prashant, put yourself in the other side as a doctor.
Right.
Study
Yeah,
his workflow.
I don't have a son, otherwise, I would have known if I would be
No,
son
son nahi chahiye,
or
mat
daughter,
sunega.
whatever. But yeah, so child would, if yeah,
Doctor
but
is the
I
right
can do
one.
that. I can do that with my friends. I can ask them.
Yeah.
Sir,
Thank you.
Prashant startup is incubated at Amity Innovation Incubator Gurugram. He has been doing wonderful work in terms of health tech side of it. Probably I'll connect you one-on-one because a lot of things where your experience can really help him out scale up also. Right. Thank you.
Sure, sir.
Thank you, Prashant. Any
Thank you.
can we take last question in case anyone else who wanted to speak? Fine. I think, sir, that's bring to the end of the session. I'd just like to conclude thanking you for the time and thank you for sharing such a valuable information for the young budding entrepreneurs. In fact, a lot of young bright ideas that are coming to us. Everyone come at a stage where they are at a concept stage, and they all these guys are so passionate about their ideas that they feel that this is a $1 billion idea, which is good. The only thing is which lacks is the validation part, which you have touched upon. It's always good that once they validate their idea and they follow the startup process, I'm sure the success is there on the way. And the right process, what you have told today, is the right mix for them to be successful. Thank you so much, and we look forward to interact with you down the line, having you on board as a mentor. And my colleague Harshit will get in touch with you for that formalities. And in fact, it was a great session altogether, very interactive from the startup side also. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Amity Innovation. And nice meeting all of you startups and looking forward to contributing to your journey.